All right, guys, the Rapsodo MLM2PRO. This is something we've tested here extensively on the channel, and there's a lot that we really like about it, primarily being its accuracy. We've put the MLM2PRO head-to-head against much more expensive launch monitors, including the Foresight GC Quad and GC3, and we found the results to be incredible. This is a very accurate device. But there seems to be one thing that's really been holding it back, and it's been mentioned by you guys countless times in the comments, and that's primarily the graphics and the gameplay when it comes to simulation. Because let's be real, a lot of you are purchasing this to use as a simulator, and that's what we do too. We use it here as a simulator, but it's had some real limitations. But the good news is Rapsodo has given us some access to a beta of their new app, and they said they've solved a lot of those problems, but just which ones have been solved and how well does the rubber really meet the road is what we intend to find out today. So we're gonna run this new beta app through the ringer. They say it's gonna be available to all users to download in the coming days, so this is a little bit of a sneak peek, but let's just see if Rapsodo truly did address some of the biggest issues with the MLM2PRO. All right, so obviously the most exciting part of this update, which we're gonna be showing you, we've been playing around with here for the last couple hours since we received it, is obviously going to be the graphics of the simulation. There are also certain aspects of the gameplay and how that elevation is gonna be involved. A lot of wish list items that are kind of checked off the box here. But there's also some smaller things that many of us have been asking for that are built in. The first one that I want to tell you about, which I'm loving seeing, is that now you have a landscape view when it comes to simulation. Prior to this, anybody who was building a simulator with a screen similar to ours shared our frustration of only having the vertical view, not taking up your whole screen. There were no way you could turn it landscape, and that caused a lot of people to use some third-party apps. Now, there are some great third-party apps out there like Awesome Golf and E6, both of which we've demoed here on the channel. But anybody who wanted to stay inside of the Rapsodo ecosystem really had no option to take up the full real estate of their screen. They do have that now. The other thing I'll show you, which is also very important, is that you're gonna see a multiplayer option. You can now fill out a foursome. I believe it'll take actually up to 5 players, but easily fill out a foursome on here. So a lot of similarities we saw before. You can select your tees. We're gonna hit into a net. We're going to use the RPT ball. And just for that visual effect, we'll take a look at holes 6, 7, and 8. And like I said, we're gonna show you some before and after, because I think when you see the side by side, you see just how dramatic this change is. So we got those. We're gonna put the graphics on high. And here's where you see the new checkbox for elevation. Here, again, we're using the beta version of the app, so you see it's noted as beta. So let's hit start simulation here. We're gonna hit a couple shots and tell you what we think. All right, so you take a look at the flyover, you immediately see a few things. First of all, you see that it is obviously displayed in landscape and not vertical as it was in the previous version. And also you can see, especially on a course like Pebble Beach here, how dramatically different that elevation looks. Let's hit a shot here, show you guys a little bit more. And the other thing too is if you notice, you now have both your 3D view in front of you and your 2D map off to the side. All right, so now here's where you're seeing the multiplayer. Mic is up, and in the top left of the screen here, under the new app, you're going to be able to see each player, their scorecard, and where they're at. It's a much more multiplayer focused experience.
Come back. Stay on that hill. Stay on that hill. There you go.
Yep.
Hey.
So you can see there how much the elevation does in fact affect the gameplay. And that's something you wouldn't have gotten before when it was just completely flat. Here, let's hit one on this 7th hole, because as we all know, the famous 7th hole at Pebble Beach involves a whole lot of elevation. And again, prior to this, it looked completely flat. So the new flyover is a completely different view.
All right, so here's where things may change, right? I got 104. I'm usually probably hitting a 54, but with that elevation, I think I'm gonna go 60. I'm gonna see if it works. Let's see if the elevation comes into play. All right, so normally this probably should not reach, but yeah, wow, it's impressive.
Now, there's also one really kind of unexpected change in the new app, which we're gonna show you in just a second, and it's not in the golf course simulation. So hang on for that one, because this one kind of took us by surprise when we first opened up the app. Oh, we both pulled it. So I think the big reason for people to get excited about this is that it now makes Rapsodo's built-in simulation a very viable simulation experience for people who are building out simulators. I know a lot of people purchase the Rapsodo as a launch monitor, using it on the range and for practice, and we've gone over that before. And then the concern was that if you really wanted to use it for simulation, you had to potentially invest in one of the other third-party apps, which would add to the overall expense. And one thing we've talked a lot about here is the ability to kind of do this and build that home simulation on a budget. So now, being able to do all of what we're seeing here, you can again see the dramatic difference in the before and after graphics and that gameplay plus the multiplayer. You now really do have the chance and the ability to have a full simulation experience and stay all within the Rapsodo ecosystem. All right, we popped the lights back on here because I want to walk you through the other big change in the new app rollout. Rapsodo has gone through and redid the entire range, and I think you're going to like what you see here. So if I load the range up, as we're setting it up, you're going to see a couple of small differences. The first one is that you can now set a target. So this is great for anybody who wants to practice a certain range. All you have to do is click set target distance. You'll see there is an option there also to proceed without a target if you don't want it. But let's say I want to work on my 150-yard shot. I can just pop that target distance in and click start range. So let me pop the lights back off and show you guys this in real time. Okay, so here we see now, again, as you look at it side by side, that's when the difference really becomes the most visible. The old range, again, good interface, but the new range, complete overhaul. Not only do we have a much improved graphics here, but we've also got our target on our 2D map off to the right there. And as I said, you can set that target and even change the target live as you're working through the range. You do not need to leave your range session in order to change your target. And then all those all-important launch characteristic numbers are set down below. Again, this is just one of those things, when you look at it the way it was versus now, it looks like a massive leap forward. The cool thing too is now we've got multiple options of how we can display it. So for example, if we jump into the camera settings options, you can see you can either have your stationary tracer line, which we had before, or you can even select the ball flight and allow it to follow the ball with the camera. Now, taking a look at this, especially contrasted with how it looked before, we can definitely say this is certainly one of the best looking and functioning built-in range simulation experiences we've seen out of really any of the different launch monitors we've tested. So all in all, this is, as you can see, a massive update. And at least for us, I think it definitely addressed a lot of the major concerns and setbacks that so many of us were looking to third-party apps to solve. But of course, many of you brought up the point of wanting to stay within the ecosystem of Rapsodo without having to purchase third-party apps. So I think this is going to address that concern for a lot of people that are either A, MLM2PRO users now, or if you're on the fence of buying this product. I think this is going to be a true game changer. I know that word gets thrown around a lot, but just again, looking at the before and after of how far this has come with one update, full well knowing that I'm sure the product will only continue to get better as more updates are rolled out in the future. But wow, all I could say is it really feels like a true simulation experience now, and I could definitely see myself spending a lot of time on that new range. It's such a pretty interface and it's so easy to use. But let us know your own thoughts on these big changes. Post them in the comments below and look for this app to be live and rolled out for everyone to use in the coming days. We're excited to see it once it hits the ground running.